Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's Zane JJ. Today I'm coming back a video basically talking about some monetary topic itself. So in this video itself, I'm gonna basically tell you like if let's say you really want to get rich in this 2000 century itself, and of course these are some of the ways that you're gonna get rich by following. And after that, I would say this is not a financial advice video, but I would say it's much more like an educational video. If let's say you are looking ways to basically get rich and after that make some extra income and stuff like this, to be honest, the first step that you really need to take note of is basically the monetary system. So if you do not know how does the monetary system work and you do not know, just take it for example, you're playing Monopoly and you do not know what's the rule, you do not know how does everything work itself, and you are hoping to get rich by buying the lottery itself, you are unlikely to win the lottery in a lifetime. Maybe you need a several, I don't know, 10 or 20 lifetime eventually to hit one lottery ticket. Therefore, I would say the odds to basically win a lottery ticket itself is very low. And after that, I would say that there is some ways you can make money of this whole situation itself. So as of now, we are in this recession slash financial crisis in the year 2022 slash 2023 itself. And after that, I would say, without further ado, I'm gonna basically jump onto the topic itself, talking about some of the history of money, educating you guys, and after that, from there, telling you what is my step to basically fight for this hyperinflation that is going to happen, the collapse of the currency itself. And I would say the currency is already collapsing. I'm going to explain to you why later on. And after that, from there, I'm not going to do a chapter on this video itself. I'm just going to basically just screen through whatever it is. And after that, I would say, if let's say you're listening to it as a podcast, feel free to do so. And after that, without further ado, if let's say you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on post notification, and leave a thumbs up to this video. And after that, I would say I have a Patreon basically link down below. If you want to support the channel, feel free to do it. And of course, the thing that you can do for me itself as of now is to basically smash the like button and subscribe itself. It's totally free to do so. And after that, without further ado, we are going to basically jump into the topic itself. Give me a while. So over here, I'm just basically pulling out. Okay, I'm just wondering how much does $100 worth in 1940 itself. So for example, as of now, 1940 till today itself, if let's say you are born on the 1940 itself, basically your life, basically you're now like 80 plus years old, 83 or something. 60 plus 23, yep, you're 83 years old, and after that, from there, you have been working throughout your whole life, and after that, from there, you have been a saver. For example, you have been saving money, and after that, from there, you are like every paycheck comes in itself, you have been saving like 50% or 20% of it, and after that, eventually you keep all your money in the bank. And of course, if let's say you look at the value of this $100 itself, you have accumulated throughout the years, let's say for example, every year itself you manage to save $100, eventually the $100 is gonna purchasing power. Just take note of this. The purchasing power is equivalent to 2,000 over dollars as of today. So during back in 1940 itself, if let's say you save $100, it is equivalent to 2,000 over dollars as of today. But if you put your money in the bank itself, the $100 is, if let's say you put it on 1940 itself, put in $100 and did not touch it at all, basically your $100 itself will be worth very, 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 very little. And after that, from there, you are basically technically losing, I would say, 95% of the value itself as of since 1940 itself. So just think about it. If let's say you're a saver, you are a loser. Therefore, I would say if you are thinking to get rich, this is not one of the way to basically earn your money slash become richer or wealthy, if you want to call it. And after that, I would say that saver itself, you are basically losing out in every aspect of life itself. Doesn't mean that you save, you are going to get rich, because in this world itself, we are not going to get rich by saving. I'm going to explain to you why. So first of all, if let's say you are in like the US, or let's say you are in the first world country or second world or third world or developing country itself, as of today itself, we can see that there's somehow like a currency crisis all over the world itself. If you want to talk about Zimbabwe, I mean not Zimbabwe, but the African country or something like that, some of the state itself, they are losing like, I mean like their dominance itself. Let's say you are comparing with the US dollar, $1 equals to a few $1,000,000, equivalent to currency crisis in their nation itself. So wherever you are itself, this is going to apply to you. And after that, I would say that as of now, we can see that this chart over here is showing the purchasing power slash spending power. Over here, we can see that the chart back then itself was like, oh, $100 equivalent to $100. And eventually, as the time goes itself, whoever is saving up their money are losing all of this value itself. Basically, are technically not losing any value. If let's say you look at it, 100 is 100 today. 10 years ago, 100 is still 100. The digit is the same. But if you're going to look at the aspect of like your GDP, your food, and why something like that, maybe your $100 you can basically like back in 10 years ago, you can eat 100 plates of chicken rice. But of course, as of today itself, 10 years later, you are basically using this $100. You only can eat like maybe 20 plates of chicken rice, something like that. It's just an analogy. So over here for this itself, we can see that the currency crisis itself, first of all, increase of the inflation and expected inflation rate itself, it can increase from like 10%, worst case scenario 200% depending on how your government is dealing with things. So over here for savers itself, look at this local banking crisis. So you are a saver, you put your money in the bank itself, and eventually you're gonna lose your money by saving with the bank itself, because the bank is one of the most regulated platform out there that you can save your money. So I would say, if let's say you are still having this mindset that regulation equals safe, and after that from there, if let's say my money is there, eventually if let's say the whole thing collapses itself, I'm gonna get back my money. So I mean, you're not gonna get rich or wealthy, and you're just gonna lose it all to the market itself, to the society as of now. And after that, we're gonna talk about the next topic itself, the gold, basically dollar backing by gold itself. So as of we know that 1870 itself, early 1920 itself, the dollar itself was backed by gold, a one-to-one system itself. The monetary system was born with this concept itself. $1 of gold equals to $1 worth of $1 of US dollar, and eventually you can exchange it for gold. That's why you can see that the currency that we have itself was basically backed by something, and eventually they just deleted the whole thing itself at 1971, because yeah, I mean, it can't really be sustainable. And of course, I would say that the government itself, they're greedy, they need more money, they need to basically more money. I would just say more debts equals the country will prosper, because you are using money in the future. And of course, to speed things up itself, you are basically doing the infinite money glitch itself, basically opening some debts IOU itself, and eventually you get all the money in, and after that you are basically spending this futures money in the current year itself to basically build stuff here and there. Oh yes, the country looks very nice, it's prospering, but at the end of the day, we look at the system itself, fueled by debt, and of course eventually the system is gonna crash. So I'm just gonna basically skip through this, and after that tell you the next part itself. The history itself is something like that for the monetary system. Next part itself is basically talking about the stock market itself. So if let's say you are a saver itself, you might want to consider putting your money into the stock market or cryptocurrency market, which I'm going to explain to you later on the crypto part. So over here, the stock market itself, eventually you can see that the S&P 500 itself is basically an index of the top 500 companies in the US itself, and after that they are stable as fuck and some stuff like this. Basically, it's an ETF. So over here we can see that it started off at the 1928 itself. Eventually you can see, looking at the chart itself, I do not on the log scale itself, just disable it. Show recession. So over here you can see the gray line itself is the recession, and over here inflation adjusted. So if let's say I not click on this itself, you can see the whole chart is just booming up after like 1994, and after that over here 2010 is 2008 itself, after the financial crisis, and everything just goes up and up and up. And after that, I would say every recession itself have happened. Basically, all the recession happened itself, the market definitely will go down during a recession, and of course, it will go up again, and the recession hit again, go up and down, up and down. So this is how the market works. So you invested all your money in 1940 itself, every $100 is put into the market itself, you are basically worth freaking hell, you're worth a lot of money. If let's say you started your stock journey at the 1940 itself, and of course, every $100 you earn per month or annually, you're gonna save it, put in the stock market itself, eventually you're gonna make lots of money. So here, the thing that why people do not want to basically put their money in the stock market itself is because, oh, it's very risky. Because you've heard stories like, oh, I don't know which ape or which uncle or whatsoever, the great grandfather played the stock market, and eventually it crashes, and after that they need to sell their house, mortgage and everything. Nobody is asking you to use this financial tool called a leverage. If let's say you heard about this leveraging itself and you decided to go for it, yes, I would say the risk itself, you have to understand what is it. Basically, leverage itself, using $100, you can multiply your money. You're owning only $100, but somebody is willing to lend you 10 times, 100 times of that value to basically let you head over to the casino or whatsoever to basically do your bad things. And of course, if let's say you are lucky enough, you done enough research, your probability of winning itself is high. You are, I mean, like, if let's say you hit it and after that you win it, that's good for you. And after that, from there, I'm not asking you to invest in the stock market by using leverage itself. Basically, you need to understand how to play the stock market, how to get into the stock market, and after that, from there, how can you like understand how the stock market works, how do you buy or sell your stocks itself. So eventually, saving saving in the bank itself is easy. Just head over to ATM, put your cash in, and after that, that's it. They're gonna pay me an interest rate of 0.5%, 0.05%. If the year is good itself, I'm getting 2%, and after that, some people might say I'm getting like 3%. Yeah, very very good, but eventually that 3% itself, after a year, inflation hit in at 4%, you are losing 1% of your spending power. So do not save your money. I would say instead invest your money, and after that, from that, this is one of the way you can basically get rich in this century itself. And I would say later on the crypto part, and after that over here we can see that every time after a recession itself, the market will just eventually go up, and after that eventually we can see this was somehow like one of the biggest crash in the world. I mean, in the history or something like that, it crashed, and after that 2008 itself was one of the biggest crash again, and eventually everything just went up. And until COVID hit, it just crashed again and went up again. So I would say eventually the stock market itself, if you look at it at 100 years time itself, or let's say 50 years time frame itself, eventually you are still making money 30 years itself. So eventually, if let's say it's 30 years ago you invested, today itself, when it crashed or whatsoever, you are still making tons of money because the stock market is always moving up. Why is that so? Because of this thing called the global debt itself. So the global debt itself is increasing, and all those money being printed out of thin air. You are basically the government, the businessman, or whoever itself is basically taking the money and throwing it in this type of market, this type of investment to basically prosper their company, prosper the roads or whatsoever you want to call it. So the stock market eventually will always go up itself, and after that, eventually I would say when the monetary system crash, the stock market will crash as well. And after that, from there, how do we like hedge on that and stuff? So I've already mentioned like spending itself, the GDP itself is basically the most useless financial tool to basically judge how rich the country is or something like that, because it's just telling you like your gross domestic product itself, how much money is in total and stuff like this, but eventually it does not determine how rich your citizens are. And after that, from there, I would say it's just the number over there in the financial scene itself. Eventually, I would say the GDP itself is always going up if you look at it itself, because of this thing called the national debt. So the debt of the whole world itself as of now is basically 247% of the GDP, basically the $235 trillion. You do not know what's the trillion, it's a freaking lots of zeros behind lots of number. And after that, from there, I would say the debt itself has always been increasing after 1970 or something like that, after 1971 itself, the gold itself is not backed currency, and eventually the people who are controlling the system itself has the power to basically print more and more and more, and eventually just write a piece of paper telling you that this is the IOU, and in the future we are going to pay off this debt. But eventually, if you look at the national debt itself, it has never been paid. Only one fine year itself, at the year 2000 itself, it was somehow paid 2% increase on the debt itself. But eventually, you can see the whole system itself, year by year, it is always increasing and increasing. And every time we reach a financial crisis itself, we print more money, and after that, from there, there goes your stimulus check, and after that, the government helping you out and everything, they are just printing for you. I mean, like, it's a good thing for citizens to receive all this check itself, but eventually, who do I would say almost 80% of the people out there do not know the monetary system, and after that, from there, they are not willing to educate themselves, and of course, they are complaining about stuff day by day, telling you that, hey, why I can't get rich? I've been working at a high paying job, 20K per, maybe let's say 100K per year, and after that, from there, eventually, I'm like always spending and saving, but eventually I'm not getting rich, not getting out of this rat race itself. This is the reason why, because the government itself, they are doing you something good, but eventually, if you look at the back end itself, if you understand the whole monetary system, it is basically it's basically giving you a piece of cake and a slice of cake, and then even in the future itself, you are gonna return a whole cake itself. So this is how this thing works itself. So the next part itself, we look at the federal interest rate itself. Eventually, the interest rate itself is basically one of the tool to basically stabilize the economy itself. And I believe there's a bell curve. Like if let's say it increased by 2%, and eventually it is too high, the federal have to do an increment of the rate, and after that, basically keep inflation in check itself. And after that, eventually this is how the interest rate goes up and down. And those who know know the system itself, they take advantage of this to basically buy their real property itself, their real estates, and after that, from there, basically do some deals, take a loan, and after that, from there, take advantage of this interest rate decrement, increment, and after that, stuff like this. So over here, I'm gonna go for my final topic itself. I believe that this is the one one way itself, highly probability way that you can basically be rich in this century itself. If let's say you are going to basically talk about, okay, the monetary system is really so flawed, and after that stuff like this, and many people don't believe that it's flawed and they think it's just perfectly fine because they don't freaking understand how everything works itself. So for my case itself, I'm squeezing everything I know into this like 20-minute or even 25-minute of this video itself. And of course, I'm going to tell you the one thing that is definitely going to make a lot of people rich itself is basically cryptocurrency. So here I'll be thinking, oh, this channel is about crypto. Definitely is going to mention some crypto. And I'm going to tell you why I believe crypto itself is going to be one of the big thing in the future. And after that, I would say it's going to be, I probably would say that people are going to, countries is going to basically use Bitcoin as one of the currency, their primary currency, or basically eligible currency, or you want to call it a legal tender itself. And after that, from there, we're going to look at one of the controversial that is always there itself. Bitcoin itself is a waste of energy, it is an environmental harm, and after that, it's destroying my earth, save my earth, and stuff like this. So if we're going to click on it, I'm going to show you this chart itself. It's telling you the banking system itself and the gold itself. So for digging gold itself, this is the terawatt hour per year itself. For digging gold itself, is almost as equivalent to the banking system. And after that, when Bitcoin was out, basically producing cryptocurrency, producing the Bitcoin and its technology itself, many people are arguing that, hey, Bitcoin takes up a lot of energy and it is basically harming the environment. But if you look at the chart itself, the banking system itself takes double of what Bitcoin is using to basically do all of this. You can see the card networks, the ATM, the bank branches, and these bank branches itself, they need to hire people to basically do all the stuff. And after that, electricity that is running all of the branches, and the top 100 bank data center. So we hear this is taking like tons of energy, but Bitcoin itself is only half of it. And you might just be in denial, not believing this chart itself, because this this news article is from Cointelegraph, basically a crypto news source itself. You might be thinking this shit and stuff like this. Whatever it is, I'm just gonna explain to you why crypto itself is gonna make you rich in the future. First of all itself, if you look at the monetary system itself, during the early days itself, yes, it is backed by gold. It is worth a lot of money, and because we know that precious metal itself is very, very valuable, and after that, using this to be backed by the currency being backed by gold itself, it put the trust and faith of everybody to use the system itself, and eventually people do not use gold anymore to transact using the currency. And eventually we already seen the gold itself somehow during this period itself, it was 1 to 1, and eventually at the late 1920 or 32 itself, they basically made it like $1 equals to 50 cent of your $1 gold equals to 50 cent of your currency. And eventually it just get lower and lower, and they just say, okay, you know what, just gonna bring not use this tag system anymore, and after that we are just gonna focus it on the faith and trust of our citizens, the humanity itself. People are gonna trust the system because for almost 100 years itself, the system is there, and after that people have used to it, and after that eventually it is really embedded into our genes to basically know that, okay, cash itself is a good thing and stuff like this, put our faith in it, and eventually, yeah, this is what's going to happen. So over here, as of now itself, the currency itself we are using is basically backed by nothing. It's just our faith, trust, and hope. And of course, whoever is going to be the president, hopefully they do something good, and of course, take their vote. I mean, put your vote onto them. And after that, this is just basically what currency is backed by now. And of course, if you want to talk about crypto itself, and after that, you might be arguing that, okay, the currency is not only backed by all of this, but of course, there is some like infrastructure, and of course the banking system infrastructure, and after that all of the economy is backed by it, something like that. And of course, if you look at crypto itself, you might be thinking, hey, it's not backed by anything. So eventually, if you look at Bitcoin itself, it is actually backed by something which is called a Bitcoin miners. Basically, all the ASIC being produced from the chip manufacturer itself is basically still something there to basically back for this currency. And of course, yes, as of now, it is still the same system backed by nothing. I would say technically nothing itself, no precious metal being involved, and after that from there, it's the same as the currency. So as of now, it's basically there's two choices over here that you need to basically know about. And after that, I would say first of all, the currency itself, you are basically choosing to trust it because everybody is using it. Yes, one of the way itself to think about it, everybody is using it, and of course you must know that this itself is controlled by some secret entity, or I would say some of the Federal Reserve. They control the money inflow and outflow, and of course from there stabilizing everything, the economy itself. So first of all, they can print, and after that from them making you lose your purchasing power, and eventually your $100 is just worth like $5, 100 years or something like that. And of course, from there, I would say, so today itself, the monetary system itself is controlled by a group of people, just a little bit of group of people with their own personal interests and of course personal gains itself, and they do not really care about how the society is gonna react or stuff like this. But of course, at the end of the day, their ultimate move itself is to keep this bunch of groups of friends to be wealthy. And after that, if you want to talk about crypto itself, it is a decentralized people's money. I would say truly the people's money, because you don't get fucked by inflation. I mean, like, yes, inflation is gonna happen, but there's a max supply of it. Therefore, it is keeping in check of the total circulating. And of course, for the monetary system itself, let's say as of now, there's like around $100 trillion. Eventually, it is going to increase, and increase. Therefore, your spending power going to increase and increase and increase. So I would say cryptocurrency itself is one of the way that can absolutely, I would not say guarantee, but of course, highly probability 80%. 80% itself, you're gonna basically see crypto being the tool that basically make you rich yourself. Why is that so? Because as of now, the monetary system is somehow falling apart. Let's say eventually it crashes and everything pop. And of course, the whole monetary system is going to do a final reset. And after that, we are going to be back by something like gold is going to be back with the currency. And of course, from there, I would say that Bitcoin itself, if let's say people do not want to trust in like the US dollar, the UK, the pound, the euros, or whatever itself, they can basically use this existing infrastructure, the decentralized network itself, Bitcoin, to back by gold and use it as a legal tender. And after that, from there, the price of Bitcoin itself will be widely used. And after that, this is just, I would say, 50 years down the road, like this might happen, or even it will take longer than that. Maybe after all of the Bitcoin is being mined after 200 years itself, then you will see changes in the monetary system. And I believe that within this 10 to 20 years itself, Bitcoin is definitely going to go higher and higher because of whatever is happening with our current monetary system. So the two ways that I mentioned is basically, first of all, you're gonna save your money, please don't do it. Don't save it in your bank or whatsoever. Take some risk, educate yourself, and after that, from there, invest in the stock market, and eventually it might help you out if you are you know what you're doing. And of course, in what don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and that's the golden rule. Secondly itself, is cryptocurrency is one of the options that you can think of. And after that, from there, I will tell you that I'm very bullish with the cryptocurrency option. And after that, from there, basically these two options itself, one is two of the ways that you can basically reach itself in this century of 2003 itself. I mean, yeah, this century of this 2000. And yeah, basically I've come to the end of the video. If you like the video, kindly leave a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and of course, on my Patreon. And I'm gonna see you on the next one. Bye bye.